Alrighty guys, we have a T-handle that has come in to get a key made for. T-handles are typically used on the backs of like RVs or campers, on the backs of pickup trucks. Sometimes they have these. You can find them on garage doors a lot. This is one that I've got in the shop from Overhead Door. Most of the time they have this square shaft that comes off the back of it that engages with the disc that's on there, and when you turn the handle, the disc turns and there's a slot in it, kind of like a safe lock would be. And once that slot opening is where it's supposed to be, you can usually slide a bolt back. That's how they work on garage doors for the most part. And there's also like the L-shape handle, so you got the T-shape handle and then L-shape handle. L would be like that kind of. And almost always how these work is you turn the key 180 degrees and something in the back of the plug will engage with a notch. The back of the plug has a cutout or something, and when you turn the key the 180 degrees that it needs to be, it'll push a piece up into a slot cut into this part that is bolted on, which locks the handle, keeps it from turning. And then when you turn the key the other way, it drops it down, which allows this to turn inside. Now, some of these are really hard to get off. You have to push out these pins, and some of these springs are kind of strong, so typically you don't like really want to try to take it apart to make a key for, because they are just 5 wafer locks. Here's one that's here's a Bauer version, and we can see it's just a little 5 wafer. This one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and sometimes they have codes on them which you can cross-reference to get the key number. This one's Bauer branded, so this would go probably with some type of RV or a camper, but they all work the same. Likely this one as well. This one looks more like a cam lock with a threaded screw, and I don't know what it attaches to, but undoubtedly we can take, you know, a cam from another actual cam lock and see that likely there is a bigger version of this that screws and tightens down, and then when you turn the handle it will flip the cam out of the way. So that's likely how that works. And on this particular one we can see this that is pushing up in there, and at first it looks like a spring-loaded mechanism, but it's not. So undoubtedly when you turn the key, this will withdraw. There's the other side of it, and what will happen is this will suck down in and allow it to turn and allow it to come apart too. I'm going to go ahead and pick it. Normally, like I said, if I'm on site on something, I will find the key that fits it. I've gone through a few keys here. Always try your Y11 first, and when I tried the Y11, it didn't seem like it went in very well. It's actually really doesn't go in very well at first, but so I don't know, it's not branded, but the Y11 will go in a little tight. And I've tried several of these other keys in the Y12 through 14, the B1, none of them work. I did find the 1054 UN, which is typically used on like D-Tex or Simplexes. I found that it went in a lot better and fits not nearly as tight as this one does. I could use this Y11. These are more expensive and they're also harder to cut. Since the Y11 is starting to go in, it may just need lube and just be used. So what I'll likely do, also found the Yale O1122C. As I was going through keys, I found that it actually fitted as well. Not exactly right, but it would work if that's the only other one you have. So we're going to assume it's just another 5 wafer lock. So typically if we were locked out of this, obviously you could impression it. If I was going to impression this, in the field with my impressioning file, I've got keys that are prepped with a razor edge or a chisel edge, where you just grind this down kind of like this, and you get a real sharp edge, and you come in with your pliers as usual, or your impressioning tool, and turn, pull it out, check your marks on it and do it again until you get a working key. This one I'm actually going to see because once we take this apart, I don't know if maybe you can pull the plug out. Sometimes you're able to reach in and hit a wafer to pull it out, but I don't think you can on these. You shouldn't be able to. But we're going to go ahead and pick it and see if maybe there's a wafer behind on the inside that we're able to press down. And let's see, could be either way. It's kind of loose either way, so I'm just going to turn it that way. This is a HPC 2 1/4 twist, ground down smaller than usual for small padlocks and stuff like this. So I'm just going to grab it with, I don't know which way this turns. Usually you can tell. Okay, I think it goes this way because it's not really responding the other way. So let's see about getting, well, there we go. Not much to wafer locks usually. But as we're turning this divot right here should go down. Oh, yep, it does. So once it is all the way down, I'm not going to turn it all the way so that it won't sneak into position, but we're going to see, and there we go. And this comes apart. Now that that is out of the way, we got an O-ring seal to keep the moisture out. There's a little mechanism that fits onto the back of that to extend it through. And then our little mechanism that goes out and in. Oops, I just relocked it. However, look at this. We have a little bitty tiny screw right there. There's no way, no access holes for a retainer. So I'm going to get a little screwdriver. Now, if this thing was on something, even with all the O-rings and stuff, that screw is very small. I use this to melt caps on the tops of transponder keys, so it's all black and nasty, but it's ground down real tiny. And I'm going to pull this out. Now, if this was actually in use, I imagine this would be coated with rust and not very good or easy to take out. But we see that it's definitely a retainer of some kind. And we'll see if we can pull the core out now. And whenever you're trying to pull a core out, you want to be very careful not to flip the wafers around. All right, so the core is coming out now, so that just held it in. And I'm gonna try to leave my pick fully in there to hold the wafers in, make sure they don't come out when I'm taking it out. So I'm keeping my pick in there. Okay, there's our wafer stack. And keep my pick in and keep them from falling out. And there we go. So this, a really long core with another O-ring. This one's sealed really well. And we can see there's where our retainer went. So if you could not back that screw out, you would not be able to get this core out. And this part right here, I'm going to hold this, intersects likely with, there we go, it fell out. So that fits in there. When you turn it one way, it pushes it up, and then when you turn it, it pulls it back and forth. So that needs to go back in there. And let's see what we got with wafers. Let's take a key and stick in there and see what our stack looks like. So 3 1 1 3 1. Look at this one though. Okay, so looks like our key is not reaching all the way through because it is hitting the end of the key and not lifting that wafer up. Okay, so as we were talking about before I got interrupted, the tip of the key is actually not hitting that wafer fully. So if we pull it out, pull this wafer out. We can look at these wafers too. I'm just going to pull the one out. Typical cam locks. And it's actually marked, what is that marked? 275. So if we take that one out and we put our key back in, we can see how the key is not going all the way to the end. So that last wafer is actually catching on the angled part of the key, which is not good, because you know it needs to be actually on a flat. On this angle you're going to have trouble. So what we're going to do here, normally we would find like maybe a 6-pin lock, and the only similar 6-pin version is the FR2, but the FR2 has a little bit narrower groove right here, and it does not really go in. So what I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to cut that shoulder back just a bit. You can take a file and do this just by going here. So I'm probably going to cut this to about right there. Now let's see if we can do, can't really make a square cut. I don't think we can try to make a square cut with this. Yeah, we can. Square enough anyway. And we'll take the bottom off.
I'll be back in a minute. Hi, guys.
Kim's getting involved in that video again. So that brings it back a little bit. Let's go ahead, bring it down here and square it on both sides. And leaving that wafer out, we will check to see if it is now long enough to reach. Oh, I lost a spring. Not quite yet. Not sure why. Let's file it down a little bit more. I'm gonna do that this way. I could take this over to my machine that's got the right angle wheel, do the same thing, just freehand trim it. And also, once we get this done, we can actually make the key that what it is. However, there are certain circumstances and certain people that might take this off of a door, bring it in, get a key made, and you know, be able to get into other ones. So that's an issue that you do need to watch out for, because not all people are honest about why they're doing things. They will say it's theirs, and in reality it's not. So if you're in doubt, you can always, oh no, don't jump out. You can always move the wafers around, because again, as long as there's not a multiple ones that are keyed alike, if this is just a one-off type thing. Okay, now we've got plenty of area there for that last wafer to sit on. So it's cut back enough. What I'm going to do is stick this tip of the file and just kind of scratch that a little bit, put our wafer and our spring back in. Oh, jump in there. Oh, no, come back. If you have a national wafer kit, you can use the little springs if the spring went away. I don't think these wafers are not all created equal. You cannot use some wafers and some locks. These have this little kind of weird notch right here. I don't understand the multiple numbers on them, but because they're not master key type wafers, you would be able to tell if they were master key wafers, because instead of this bottom slot being flat across, it would be stepped. There would be one higher and one lower, and that's for master keys that have the blade on the opposite side. So I don't know why they number these. What is that, 275? Let's see what this front one is. 35. 2. Don't understand. I know National's numbering pattern, but I'm not quite sure again what brand this is. So basically we've got a longer key. Now it's poking it up, and we see that our cuts are basically these are no cut or a 1 cut. Some are 1, some are 0. We're just going to call it 1. So to me it looks like maybe, since that's a 2, that's got to be a 3. So I'm guessing we've got 2 or a 3 1 1 3 2. And standard spacing for cam locks. So we're going to start at the tip, because we know if we look, we can barely see the scratch that I put in it right there. And you could also come in with a Sharpie. I don't have one here. Another good thing to do if you're doing this is you can maybe Sharpie each section about where your cuts are. Like that is about right. But of course, when you're cutting your key, you wouldn't be able to see straight up and down, so we're gonna do this. Looks like it's got a further distance from the shoulder. I'm gonna do it on both sides because I don't know which side with these Lishi cutters. Sometimes the key cuts better on one side than the other. So what our, again, going back, what was it? 3 1 1 3 2. So there are graduations on our Lishi cutter where your thing is. If you look on it, you see some graduations. This is a 05 drop, 06 drop. I don't really use that a whole lot. I just kind of gauge it. So you could maybe, they're really hard to see too. But basically that last one was a 2. So, you know, no cuts a 1. So I'm just going to clip a little bitty 2 there. That looks good. We're going to go to the next spot, which was a little bit deeper. It's not deep enough. Let's knock a little bit out there. So 3. Then we have the 1 1, which is really no cut, but I'm gonna just kind of mark it a little bit. And then up here in the front we had a 3 also, so we're gonna knock it down. That's not quite as deep as it needs to be. So 3 1 1 3 2. Let's see how that fits. If I was impressioning this, I would not have known about that extra tip thing, so it's kind of good that we took it apart. All right, so we need to take, oh wow, it's so tight right there. We seem to have lost a wafer. Where did it go, guys? It couldn't have gone far. Hello. Before I do anything else, I'm actually going to cut these shoulders back just a little bit more to see if that'll bring us into range. And file out the sides because it got tighter once I did that. So when I clipped it, I guess it made it harder to go in. And we're gonna give this just a bit more. Oomph. There we go. Still need to find our lost wafer, but let's go ahead and check the key. Oh. This wafer went here.
Hi, guys.
Stop it. This is a professionally done video. There we go. If we, oh, lost our spring again. If we look, this one's starting to drop down, but it's hitting. I need to go forward with the cut there, but not before I find that wafer that just disappeared. That don't make no sense. Let's go ahead and get this cut properly, then we'll worry about the wafer. We needed to go forward just a bit. There we go. Okay, so now we need to find our number one wafer. Okay, so we found our wafer. We are going to put it back into place and wrap this video up. Check our key, of course. And drop our wafer in. Hold on to it this time with our cut back key. We will check it and see we are good to go. So now it's just a matter of making sure your pin goes in here correctly. The O-ring is still down in there, so we're just going to insert this key until it goes in. All right, we may need to pull that O-ring out. Yeah, that O-ring got all discombobulated. So let's put that over this first. Definitely don't want to miss these O-rings. It'll help seal out the icky weather elements. All right, so check our key, turn, that's good. And then we find our little screw that hopefully you didn't lose because it is a specialty little sucker. No, it didn't back it all the way out. Where'd it go? It's probably under one of these keys. There it is. Worst case scenario, if that was rusted out, you'd have to drill it if you had to take the core out and then just re-tap it. For a little bit bigger size, this is tiny. This looks like 2/22 or something. But there we go. And once you get your screw, you don't want to tighten that screw down too far, because if you do, it will bind up. But it needs to be deep enough to hold it too. See there. And then we attach this to this. Our O-ring is still there. We're going to have to turn this to get it to go in. And that's it, guys. Cutting the key for a T-handle lock with a Lishi Cutter. Thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions or comments, as always, leave them in the comments section. We will catch y'all next video.